Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. The Eagles have lost 2 in a row. There's a lot of questions surrounding the team, not only the quarterback, but the entire team, the coaching staff. We got a lot to get to tonight. and there's a lot of opinions floating around when it concerns the Philadelphia Eagles, coming from a lot of different directions. So tonight, I'm going to get through, my little soliloquy like I always do in the first 30 minutes. And the second 30 minutes, we're going to feel your questions just because there's so much going on that we probably need to discuss. Make sure you guys are like, sharing and subscribing, I should say, excuse me, to the channel. That is the Seth Joyner Show channel right here on YouTube. We're live as well on Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn, and I think TikTok as well. If not, then coming soon we will be on TikTok. And make sure you tune in every Eagles game day to our Verizon pre and post game show with myself, Derek Gunn, and Mark Farzetta and Bailey Livesley. Excuse me one second. Goodness. So let's jump right into it. Offensively, the Eagles have been inconsistent. And I'm going to start at the top, and work my way down. Play calling has been an issue. I realize, and I'll get into that portion of it. There's some injuries on the offensive line, and you're only going to be as successful as your offensive line. But Kevin Patullo's offense, in a lot of ways, is just basic. It lacks creativity. And the most disconcerting thing, and the thing that works in favor of defensive opponents, is it's predictable. It's predictable by formation. It's predictable by the quarterback position when he's under center. It's a high percentage run. If they're in pistol, it's a high percentage run. It's a high percentage run anytime that you get Devontae Smith in motion on first or second down. The plays don't look overly coordinated to me. When I say that, if you're going to line up and run a stretch play out of 12 personnel, that's 1 back and 2 tight ends. If you're going to run the stretch play right, then you have to have the bootleg off the stretch play. Or you've got to have the stretch play, you ride it, pull it back, set up, and throw the football. Like, I get the sense sometimes when I'm watching this offense that, there's no real coordination to what they do. And the fact of the matter is, it seems as if Kevin Patullo is calling plays off the top of his head. Now, let's be honest. From its inception, the game of football has always been about the players. Okay? There's been plenty of times where defensive calls came in, during my time of playing, and everybody in the huddle looked at each other like, this is not the right call for us to be in. But it's also not our position to determine what the right call is and the right call isn't. That's what the coach's job is. Our job is to execute that which has been called to the best of our ability. And sometimes you can do that, sometimes you don't. But whatever that play is, you gotta execute it. Everybody across the board. The problem with the offense is we're not executing in a massive way. There are times where the offensive line is taking turns making mistakes. The quarterback is making mistakes. The running back is missing the block. The wide receivers aren't, running the correct route. Everyone has a hand in this, from the coaching staff all the way down to the players. Okay. The biggest player that we've got to talk about is Jalen Hurts. And I've been accused of being, a Jalen Hurts sympathizer. Let me just preface this with saying I have always believed in Jalen Hurts, even when everybody else did not believe in him. When the Eagles drafted him, I saw nothing wrong with it, even though Carson Wentz was supposed to be the guy. And if he was open to competition, he probably would still be the guy. Okay. But anytime I have a guy who says that, oh, I'm either the starter or I'm out of here on the roster, I don't want that guy on my team anyway. So now, Jalen Hurts, after his first year as a full-time starter, there was a whole lot of questions about whether he could be the guy. Could he be the passer? What did he do in the offseason? Went and saw Tom Brady's guy in California, worked with Tom Brady, improved his passing, and got close to being the MVP of the league had it not been for the injuries that he sustained at the latter part of the season and missed 2 games. Okay? I believe in the kid. I think that there's very few players who are prepared to handle the city of Philadelphia. This is a tough place to play. But I think all the things that he's experienced along the way has set him up and put him in a place to be the perfect quarterback for the city of Philadelphia. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's perfect and everybody is at fault, and Jalen isn't. I'm a little less apt, to attack him than I am most other players because of what he's had to overcome and all the hate that he's endured since he's been the quarterback of this team for the last 6 seasons or 5 seasons as a starter, full-time starter. Okay. But to say I'm not concerned, would be a flat out lie. I'm overly concerned about where Jalen Hurts is. This is year 6. So he's at 5 years under Nick Sirianni. And whatever the success of Nick Sirianni's record is, you can attribute that same record to one Jalen Hurts. I got into a little bit of debate with Jody Cameron on the radio on Monday. A caller called in, trashing Jalen, talking about he's not the guy. And I just wanted to remind him, and I want to remind you, that Jalen Hurts is the current Super Bowl champion and the current Super Bowl MVP. There's not very many quarterbacks that's playing today in the National Football League that can boast that achievement, okay? And I want you to know that every quarterback, every player goes through highs and lows, good years and bad years, successes and failures. So what Jalen Hurts is going through is no different than what any other quarterback has experienced. You don't believe me? Go back and research every last one of the great ones, every last quarterback that plays in the National Football League. Patrick Mahomes stumbled through the first 4 or 5 games of the season before he had the kind of game that we come to expect for him to have. But nobody was trashing him. And how we forget the pain and suffering that the Phillies put us through year after year, the pain and suffering that the Flyers, and the Sixers have put us through. But we've got a team that are defending Super Bowl champions. We got a quarterback that's a Super Bowl MVP, and we're talking about the backup. We're talking about other players coming in and replacing that. Oh, how ungrateful can we be that the one team, the one organization, the one player that's partly responsible for the one little bit of joy that we've had in the last 3 to 4 years, we got people talking about, oh, we need to move on. Okay? I just want to put that out there because I want you guys to understand why, what I feel, what I think, and why I believe in this quarterback. But don't think for 1 second that he's below or beyond my critique. He's played terrible football the last few weeks. The problem is we can't figure out why. Is it him? Is it the offense? Is it the new offensive coordinator? Okay. Is it the offensive system that's in? Is it the fact that it's so simplistic Is it simplistic because that's what the coaches want to run? Is it simplistic because that's the only thing that Jalen can run? We live in this era where offensive coordinators will say, well, I'm looking at the call sheet and I'm looking at the game plan and I'm trying to figure, okay, what is it that what is it that my quarterback likes to run? I find that fascinating because no coach I ever played for was concerned with what I liked and what I wanted to run. This is what we run. You learn it, you execute it, or we'll find somebody else that will. Why should it be so much different for a quarterback? If the playbook is the playbook, learn the playbook, practice everything that's in it. And I'm not saying that, as the OC and the quarterback, you guys don't have that connection about the things that you're most proficient at operating in. But this thought that the quarterback gets to drive the offense and tell the coordinator what works and what doesn't work is absolute nonsense to me. So if that is the case, and I don't know that it is the case, I'm just hypothecating here, okay? If that is the case, then that needs to change. And the offense needs to expand and it needs to grow. And it might need to run some things that Jalen Hurts ain't comfortable with. Well, guess what? Too bad. For what they're paying you, you run the entire playbook. Okay? So let's get to what his issues and what his problems are. The questions that I have, okay? He's been with Nick Sirianni for 5 years, and there's no doubt about it that the offense that they're running, in a lot of ways, is the offense that Nick Sirianni wants to run. The only difference is Nick's not calling the plays. Shane Steichen took over for him in the second year. In the third year, they went to the Super Bowl, okay? In the fourth year, you brought on Brian Johnson, and Brian Johnson took the brunt of all the heat. But at the end of the day, Brian Johnson wasn't calling his offense. He was calling Nick Sirianni's offense, okay? In comes Kellen Moore last year. It's been well known that even Kellen Moore, with all of his experience of being the play caller in Dallas and being the play caller, for the LA Chargers, that the offense that they ran last year was not Kellen Moore's offense. Kellen Moore was running Nick Sirianni's offense. So if Jalen's been running the same offense for the last 5 years, pray and tell me, why is it that he hasn't mastered this offense? When I say master, this is what I mean. The great quarterbacks, they can snap the ball, and on every single play, every single possession, every check, he can tell you exactly where every player on the field is. He can close his eyes on every route that's called, because when you call a play, and you guys have heard the way these plays are called, the verbiage is like off the charts. But every little section of it applies to the position, the protection, and players across the board. Whether it's a run or pass, it's all word coded. So if you're calling the play and it's word coded, then that should tell you, or tell me, or tell you as a fan now that you know that every single play that's called, Jalen should know where every player is on the field. So why is it sometimes that he's sitting in the pocket, patting on the ball, waiting for routes to develop instead of going through his progression and moving to the next guy and always understanding where my outlet is? Because plays are always designed with an outlet in mind, whether that's the tight end chipping and releasing late in the flat, or whether it's Saquon Barkley checking and releasing on the swing route, or sitting down right in front of you. If it ain't there, dump it off. Take what the defense is giving you. But it seems to me he predetermines where he's going with the ball. That interception that he threw to Jahan Dotson, I'm looking at his eyes and he's looking at Jahan the entire time. The cornerback is playing off, outside technique. The route is sloppy because I get it, it's a speed out, but you can't run a pure speed out, and this is what I'm saying, there has to be adjustments in the offense. If that guy's lined up outside of Jahan Dotson, he can't run a speed out right into his technique. Whatever happened to pushing it inside and optioning back inside away from the technique? But Jalen stared him down the entire time. And then A.J. Brown comes open for a touchdown, completely misses it because he's locked in on one area. Expand your vision, Jalen. I'm sure you ran that play multiple times in practice. You probably even threw that ball to A.J. Brown for a touchdown in practice multiple times last week. Yet you get in the game, and because you're getting a little bit of pressure, you get nervy, and instead of waiting for the play for the primary to be there, you decide to throw the speed out and throw an interception, game, set, and match right there with that interception. Okay, that's question one. Why hasn't he mastered this offense by now? Two, are opponents disguising coverages so much, meaning giving him one look pre-snap and morph into something else post-snap, and he's not able to adjust to it on the fly? See, to me, these are film study things where you can find and you can see, okay, if they're disguising, that guy's going. There's always a tell, and you got to study the film enough to know that when that safety is in too high, he's lined up from 10 to 15 yards deep. If he's lined up at 9 or 8 or 7, he's not going to too high look, even though he's trying to show you that. He's coming down in the box. And you either got some kind of man coverage or you got some kind of zone coverage with a single high safety over the top. Okay? Next question. Why is his internal clock always so slow? Okay? Pick it up. 1001, 1002. That ball's got to be out of your hand. Whether you're throwing it away or whether you're throwing it to somebody that's open or whether you're throwing it to the outlet, that ball's got to come out of your hand. The other one, why is he taking so many sacks? How many times have we seen him run to the sideline, get chased out right at the line of scrimmage? Do you know that if it's for no gain, that it's a sack? Against the Broncos, they had 6 sacks against him, and at least 2 of them was him stepping out of bounds before he got to the line of scrimmage. Throw the damn ball away, man. Throw it away. And lastly, does he operate more efficiently, okay, in the hurry up? They've had some success at different points in different games by running the hurry up. So maybe that's something that we can do more often to give him a little more rhythm, to give the offense a little more rhythm. The only problem is you've got to convert third downs, and the Eagles right now on third downs, they're only converting 34%. That is ranked 27th in the NFL. That's what killed the offense in the second half of last week. No third down conversions, no possession, not possessing the ball, because on to the next piece, they're not running the ball effectively. The offensive line, I don't know whether Jurgens' back has him in a position where he's not 100% right. Dickerson is always injured. From his college days, we knew that he was injury prone, but he is always injured. You know, Toth is a liability as his backup. Steen is still learning and very inconsistent. And Lotta, man, my goodness, you know, his footwork is just horrible. You know, and he's not playing well at the moment. And Lane has had, you know, his issues from time to time. This unit is the linchpin for the success of the offense. And they right now are taking turns making mistakes on different plays. The offense is doing it. Whether it's the wide receivers running a bad route, whether it's, you know, the running back missing a block, whether it's the offensive line missing a block or missing an assignment, they're taking turns and it's taking a toll on the offense as a whole. And then Saquon. Listen, there's nothing wrong with Saquon. I don't want to hear anything about Saquon slowing down or anything. He's still that dude, okay? But when you got an offensive line that's not mauling and an offensive line that's not dominating the line of scrimmage, it's hard for him to be successful. That's one of the reasons why he got the hell out of New York. They had no offensive line. And this offensive line, if they don't block for him, if they don't get back to dominating the way that they played, moving the line of scrimmage, okay, it's going to be hard to get him going. And then last week, they got him going. The first 2 runs of the first half, he rips off 31 yards in 2 runs, and all of a sudden they get pass happy and stop running. Then he winds up with what, 50-something yards, I think 56 yards on 8 carries in the first half. and you don't run him much at all. The other thing is, I heard someone say, oh, Saquon carried the team last year. Let me tell you this. That sounds like a statement from someone who really doesn't know football. Because to prove it to you, go back to week 16 when Jalen got concussed and went out of that game, okay? And tell me from that point on what Saquon did in that game. Now, I'm not trying to belittle Saquon or say anything negative against Saquon because I think that he's a generational talent, okay? But Saquon has always succeeded because of the threat of Jalen running the ball. He makes defenses, 10-man at the most. Because that defensive end on every read option, on every RPO, he has to stay home because of the threat of Jalen taking off and running with the football. So that leaves one less guy that you have to block in the blocking scheme. So how much critical is Jalen to Saquon's success? And Jalen and Saquon, I should say, and Saquon is efficient and important to Jalen's success. They work hand in hand. If Jalen's having success with the RPO game, that opens things up for Saquon. They haven't run a lot of it thus far. And that's part of the reason, in my opinion, that, hey, they haven't been as successful as they were last year. Those two go hand in hand, okay? So Jalen's got to get back to running. That's going to help Saquon. And when Saquon gets going, that's going to help the overall offense, and that's going to help Jalen. Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball, okay? It's a tough place for Vic Fangio to be in. It just flat out is. Because I think that he's, one of the few generational geniuses that I've seen, in the last 20 to 25, 20 to 30 years that's calling defenses. There's nothing this guy hasn't seen. There's no remedy that he does not have, for his players. But when your players aren't playing up to, where they need to play to, that's a whole nother ball game. Jalen Carter's injured. He hasn't gotten himself in top shape because of the injuries that he sustained early in training camp. He is the linchpin for this defense. If he's not on the field and he's not playing, this defense is in trouble. Because not only can he rush the passer, but he dominates in the run game as well. And when you lose a player of that magnitude, you're going to have problems. They got to figure out how to get him healthy and get him in shape in order for this defense to play where it needs to play. The edge players, Zadarius Smith retired today or yesterday. Dude, why? I'm not even going to go there on him. The problem with the Eagles' edge guys is I think that Howie overestimated the development of these guys. And obviously Nolan Smith being out is a big loss too. But my issue, with the way that this position has been constructed, when you had a BG and you had a Josh Sweat, you had true defensive ends. Opposite of a guy like Nolan Smith, who's more like a tweener. He's like a linebacker, edge rusher hybrid. So you can drop him into coverage. You can do a lot of different things with him. The problem is we have too many guys that look just like that, okay? Azeez Ojulari, same type of player. Josh Uche, same type of player. Johnson, same type of player. These players are not big enough to hold down one side of the defense. And what you had in Zadarius Smith was that guy that was maybe 6'4", 260 to 270 pounds that gave you a little more bulk, but you weren't counting on that guy to drop, and he could be a force against the run. BG, you lose the same thing, 260, 270, but just solid at the point of attack. Didn't have to worry about him dropping, but you needed that component. And I think the fatal mistake that the Eagles have made at that position is that they thought that Jalen Hunt would progress faster than he has. They didn't anticipate Nolan Smith being injured again. And they thought that between Ojulari and Uche, that these guys would step in and take it to another level with the opportunity to maybe even start or be a major contributor. And it just hasn't happened. We're not getting any pressure off the edges whatsoever. And these guys aren't stout against the run in a lot of ways. Okay. The big question that Fangio is going to have is what to do with Nakobe Dean when he comes back. Okay. Because we know that Jahad Campbell can play off the ball. We've seen him do that. We also know that he can line up on the edge and play on the edge. But then again, you got another one of those similar type bodies, maybe even smaller. So do you move him to the edge and start Nakobe Dean right next to Zach Bond again? That tandem was pretty special. How quickly and how ready is Nakobe Dean to step in and take the green dot and step back into his rightful place? Who knows? That's a tough question that only Vic Fangio can answer. And it's a critical piece because we can't stop the run in our four-man front. It forces us to go to a five-man front or to move to it late. And once you get to the five-man front, you're still, 6-on-6 at the tight ends in the box. So that's man blocking across the board. Now, if you drop a safety, and it puts you at a disadvantage in coverage, but if you drop a safety in the box to give you the free hitter in the seven-man look, now you almost forced to play man coverage on the outside with a single high safety. So now you can see how teams can dictate to this defense what they're going to do because we can't stop the run out of the four-man front. Because in my opinion, I don't think our edge guys are big enough. And you're not going to ask linebackers that weigh 220, 230 pounds at the most to come downhill and take on these linemen that they're giving up 100 pounds to. So you're almost forced to go to the five-man front, which makes it weak, makes the defense weaker. Keely Ringo, Adoree Jackson are the Achilles heels of this defense. They are going to be targeted again and again and again until one of them steps up and says, enough. When I look at Keely Ringo, I look at the size. The prototypical cornerback runs 4.3 40. You want to know the thing that, in my opinion, is missing the most with Keely Ringo? Is confidence. And you guys have heard me say it 1,000 times. I don't care how God-gifted you are as an athlete. I don't care how hard you work. I don't care how much time you put in to study and film. If you don't have confidence in what you do, if you don't think that you're the baddest dude on the planet, if you don't think that you're the best thing since sliced bread, you have no shot whatsoever of being successful in the game of professional football. And what I see with Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson is guys that are protecting against giving away a big play instead of being ready to step up and make a big play, to take a chance. You cannot play this game from a position of fear. Throw it to the side. Throw caution to the wind. Pick your spots when you're going to try to make a play and when to play it soft. And then when it comes to tackling, the guy can't run without his legs. Stop tackling people up around their shoulder pads and get down on his darn legs. The aiming point should be 6 inches above the knee with the intent to snap the damn femur when you come. The same way that Cooper DeJean tackles. Cooper doesn't come up there tippy-toeing and messing around. He comes up and takes the legs away. Because he knows if he takes the legs away, there's no doubt that that guy's going down. But you got to do it aggressively, and you got to do it with confidence. And that's the problem with these two guys. Double that now that Quinyon Mitchell has got a hamstring issue and missed most of the Giants game. These guys are going to have to step up. They're going to have to step up because what is Vic going to do on Sunday against Addison and Jefferson? You're going to bend but don't break all the way down the field and then get in the red zone and then come with pressure? They got to step up. And lastly, Reed Blankenship has got to play better. Andrew Makuba has got to stop missing tackles, critical tackles. Nobody cares about blowing people up. To be honest with you, the big hit, the blow-up shot is only going to come maybe once or twice every 2 or 3 games. If a guy doesn't see you, you can take your shot. If he sees you, the objective is to get him on the ground. Because if you're going 120 miles an hour, like Sidney Brown as well, an offensive player is just going to give you a move and step out of the way and let you go by. No, run up, grab a leg, and hold on for dear life and wait for the cavalry to get there. The objective is to get the guy on the ground, not to blow him up, not to hit him with your shoulders and bounce off and the guy keeps running for a touchdown. Come on, man. We're not talking Pop Warner. We're not even talking high school. We're talking about professional football players that are missing open field tackles when they have the sideline as their 12th man. Makes no sense to me. All right, so I'm going to a break. When I come back, I'm going to take you guys' question, get a drink, bring my blood pressure down a little bit. These birds got me a little worked up after watching them go up to New York and get destroyed by a team that they should have went in there and destroyed. Crazy. Crazy. I'll be back with you guys, and I'll be taking your questions in the second half of the show after this.
I got this old thing and the bill from the store where I got it. Figured you could beat it with a better deal on one of these big boys.
That doesn't work that way.
Well, at Verizon, anyone can bring in their AT&T or T-Mobile bill, and they'll give you a better deal.
I thought Verizon was pricey.
No, better deal, best 5G network. Back to the TV. Does it come higher than 8K? Because I don't like to squint.
Ma'am, take your TV and go.
Bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to Verizon for a better deal.
Guess you're not as cool as Verizon.
You don't know that?
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There is a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging, our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
All right, guys, we're back. We're going to open up the lines and start taking some questions. My producer start firing them, and I'm going to answer them and try to do it in rapid succession. So Ashine 101 wants to know, what's up, Seth? You think Zadarius Smith retired possibly due to being added in a trade package? I don't know. I don't know the dynamics of it all. I thought it was just weird. Dude's only been here since week 2. That you would walk away from the game after sitting at home and training and being ready all summer, and you play 4 games or 5 games, and then you decide you're done. I don't know, because maybe his body's not letting him do the things that he wants to do, but I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, I think that's pretty shitty, but at the end of the day, it's his career. He reserves the right to run it and do what he would like to do with it. All right. Next question. All right, GT wants to know, Seth, CJ was released from the Ravens and wants to come home. We have room. Should Howie listen? I love CJ Gardner-Johnson. I really do. And I think that he's a phenomenal player. But some guys learn, some guys don't. I don't know how it is that you can be with the Saints, wind up with the Eagles, get cut by the Eagles, go to the Lions, come back to the Eagles, win a Super Bowl, get traded to the Texans, get released, get signed with the Ravens, and you're barely even there and you're released again. Something is amiss with this kid, that all of the things that have gone on, he just hasn't got it. And the Eagles have got their own problems. They don't need that problem. As much as I love him, as much of an asset I believe that he would be to the defense. And if you guys notice, when he and Reed Blankenship has played together, okay, Reed has played his best football because he's the communicator. That's what they're missing on the back end, is the communication piece. But CJ has done some things, that is just put him in a situation where I'm not sure that he'll get another look. As good as he is, he may never get another look in the National Football League because of his reputation and how it precedes him at this point in his career. All right, next question. Tammy Tallman wants to know, what are the key 3 things the Eagles need to do? Well, that's a great question. I'm going to, the main thing, these are the 3 things, okay? The offensive line has got to get back to dominance, okay? And I believe if the offensive line can get back to dominance, then Saquon and Jalen can get back to dominance, okay? That's 2. 3, on the defensive side of the ball, it's no different. The defensive line has got to step up and take the challenge of being dominant. You know, our defensive line was dominant last year, you know. Even though we weren't great against the run, we weren't letting teams rack up, 134 yards per game. We didn't rank 26 in the National Football League, you know. If you can't stop the run, then it's highly likely you're not going to stop anything else. So our offensive front and our defensive front has got to play better. They got to get healthy, they got to get well, and they got to play more dominant. And then Jalen and Saquon have got to dominate. If that happens, that opens up everything for everybody across the board, okay? Next question. Louise wants to know, do I think Dickerson would benefit from a 200 to 25 to 30 pound weight loss like Jordan Davis? Probably. He does look massive. But that's part of what makes him, you know, what he is. I'm not sure if the weight contributes to the consistent injuries that he's sustained since he's been here, and whether he believes that he needs to be that weight in order to be successful. But I watched him fleet of foot, do some things last year. So I don't know. I mean, he's injury prone. He's been injury prone, you know, since his days at Alabama. One of the reasons why he fell in the draft is because, you know, the injury history that he had. So I don't know. I mean, it could be that could benefit and it could be a help. I mean, it certainly can't harm him. But at the end of the day, you know, right now it is what it is. We need him to get healthy. And whether that means him losing 25 to 30 pounds or just getting healthy, whatever it is, we need him. Next question. Christopher wants to know, have I noticed we never run screens? Yes. The only screens that we run are bubble screens, and we don't run them very efficiently and very well. I don't know whether they're just not a part of Nick Sirianni's offense, whether they practice them and they haven't been able to get the timing right, because it is a timing play. Like it takes, there's a couple of components that have to work right and fall right. Like the quarterback has to take a believable drop, okay? The offensive line have got to fight enough, you know, to make the defensive line believe that they are that they're pass blocking, and then lose at the last second so that they can get out, you know, into the screen. And then the running back has got to do the same. He's got to step up with good timing to make it look like he's check releasing and then release. So all of these things, it's a timing issue. You know, the teams that are really good at it, guess what? They practice it. I don't think that it's a part of, you know, the Eagles' offensive philosophy. And if it's not a part of your philosophy, even though it's in your playbook, if you're not practicing it on a consistent level, then you're not going to be very good at it. Also, it's a play that, in my opinion, although you can run it both ways, it's a play, in my opinion, that's run more efficiently against zone coverages, because the quarterback drops back, the offensive lineman set, and the linebackers see the setting, so they drop into their zone. When they drop into their zone, that creates space between the offensive linemen, okay, and the linebackers and the droppers and the running back. A lot of times what happens in man coverage, and you don't see linebackers play it that way, but in my day, if I had the running back and he stepped up to check block, I hugged up and I came and got him right now, afraid that the screen may get me, or wanting to shrink the amount of space between he and I so that he didn't have a two-way go. I was going to come attack him right now and eat up the space and force him to either release outside where I could trail him, or make him release inside where I had a robber coming from the other side. So when he crossed, the robber could pick him up and then I could slough off for the next crosser. So there's a whole lot that goes into running screens more efficiently. And if you don't practice it, it's hard to be good at it. And this team is not very good at it at all. Even the bubble screens that they run absolutely stink for the most part. All right, next question. 24 Birds wants to know how much is the health of Lane, Landon, and Cam affecting the flow of the offense? How much longer do you think Lane will play before retiring? I think they're all beat up. But you want to know something? Nobody's going to feel sorry for him, because I believe that, from the time that, you play your first game, it used to be from the time you step foot in training camp, but they don't do a darn thing in training camp anymore. But from the time that you play the first game in week 1, everybody's got something that's bothering them. Everybody's aching somewhere. Everybody's nicked up somewhere. And even more so now, because they don't harden their body. They don't callous their body in training camp by hitting and playing in preseason games. So they endure all of that, throughout the first couple of weeks of the season. So yes, I think the health and the injuries that these guys have incurred, they are affecting the flow of the offense, because they're just not dominating the way that they used to. I've never seen Lane Johnson, get pushed back. I've never seen, Jordan Mailata get dominated by a speed rush the way he did last week against, Burns. But so there's something going on with all of them. And as far as, what I think Lane will do, Lane's already talking about, hey, if we win the Super Bowl this year, that's my swan song. Injuries have a way of speeding up the clock on guys who realize that they're at the end of the road. And if he incurs some more serious injuries over the next 11 weeks, I think it's on the table. I would hate to see him go, because I think he's a great player and he's got a lot to offer. But man, when you play all the way into February in the Super Bowl and everything that goes along with it, that's a whole month, almost a month and a half that you got of rest that you don't get, that everybody else gets, with the exception of the team that you played in the Super Bowl. It's just a fact. So we'll have to wait and see. All right. Next question. Jermaine Hatcher wants to know, do I agree with Dan Orlovsky that we have been too predictable on offense? Absolutely. Absolutely. When players are beating you to the spot, and I heard Ross Tucker on WIP today talking about this, how when he played against Ray Lewis, that, the first 10 plays, Ray called out every single play. Defense coordinators are smart. If they've got 4 games to break down and all the data analytics that tells them what your tendencies are, what you like to do on 1st and 10, what you like to do on 2nd and long, what you like to do in 3rd and short situations. If they have all that information, they're feeding that information to the players. And if the players want to be great, then they'll study the film and disseminate that information themselves, which is a confirmation of what the coaching staff is giving them. So if they know what the plays are before the Eagles even run them, they're already sitting there at the point of attack, destroying the play before the play even gets going. And this offense is predictable. When I'm watching it, I'm calling the plays. I'm sitting there with Derek Gunn and Mark Farzetta, and I'm telling Farzy the plays before they even run them. If I can see them while I'm just sitting watching the game, in the game, and I haven't done any film study all week, you mean to tell me that these coaches that spend 15, 16 hours a day studying this stuff, and these players who are supposed to spend almost an equivalent amount of time getting themselves prepped from week to week, you think that they don't see it, that they don't know? Come on, man. That's where the creativity in this offense has to step forward. Where Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo can no longer sit back and think that we can dominate just because we got the best offensive line in football and the best running back in football and the best skilled people in football. Doesn't work that way. You've got to create some doubt in the minds as much as you can of defenders and defense coordinators to catch them off guard. Because I studied that way. If you scratched your behind, I wanted to know why. And if it was a tell, then I knew it. If I knew it, I was telling everybody else. That's just the way it works, man. It's the way it works. And if these coaches think that it's any different they're lying to themselves and these players, okay? They have to get more creative, and they've got to coordinate their plays, the run to pass off of the same looks. Because if you don't, and you're running the same things over and over again, it doesn't take a Phi Beta Kappa or a rocket scientist to figure out what the hell you're doing. Next question. Miguel wants to know, what's my thoughts on Jalen being a one-read quarterback? Can he read the field correctly on time and time again? Receivers are wide open and Jalen doesn't see him. Okay, so let me tell you this, Miguel, okay? What you see when you're watching TV is not what Jalen Hurts is seeing. It's not what any quarterback is seeing, okay? You got to understand that his progression has to go from one side to the other. He's either progressing left to right or right to left. Now, if he's missing wide open receivers that are in his progression, I understand that. But more times than not, when I see this kind of comment that he's missing wide receivers that are wide open, and I get it, that throw to Devontae Smith, he has to make that throw, okay? As a franchise quarterback, he's got to calm his nerves, step into the throw, put a little air on it, let Devontae run under. You cannot miss that throw. The throw to A.J. Brown last week, a combination of A.J. not running the route full speed and Jalen, overthrowing him. They got to connect on those type of plays. But when you're watching the all 22, like some of these Wednesday quarterbacks that look at the film and say, oh, he's missing, there's guys running. Listen, if his progression is left to right and the wide receiver is running wide open on the right side, if I'm looking over here, it's pretty darn hard for me to see what the heck's going on over there, okay? So we can talk about who's open over there all we want, but if he's taught to look 1, 2, 3, he may never even get over there. The pressure on him might not ever allow him to get back to the other side. So there are some misnomers to your ability to take an all 22 video and throw it up and look at it and say, whoa, he's missing guys. They're open all over the place. I'm not saying that he's not. But if that's what you're talking about, you're 1,000% wrong. You're 1,000% right if there are guys that are in his progression and he's missing. Like the interception he threw last week, that was bad. Because that ball was not supposed to go to Jahan Dotson. That cornerback on Jahan Dotson was the read. If that cornerback jumped Jahad, that ball was supposed to go to A.J. Brown. If that cornerback played off to make sure that A.J. didn't get the corner route in the end zone, then that ball was supposed to go to Jahan Dotson. That was on Jalen. I don't know if he's a one-read quarterback. I've seen him scan the field, start over here, and with great protection, when he has confidence in the protection, get back to the other side and pick up somebody over here, okay? So I'm not sure what the issues are. I don't think that there's anything that this coaching staff or any offense can ask Jalen to do that he cannot do. So this whole thing about, oh, he can't read defenses, oh, he can't get through progressions, I don't buy that. That's my opinion. You guys are entitled to believe what you want to believe, but you asked the question, I'm answering it. That's my opinion. Okay, next question. Quick 1-2 wants to know, Lane said the offense looks predictable. Saquon says they looked predictable last year and it wasn't a problem. Your thoughts? Well, listen, I don't think they were as predictable last year as they are this year. Okay, when you have a guy like Lane Johnson, who's been a company guy for a long time, that steps out and says some of the things that he said last week, and I saw the quotes in the post-game, in his post-game interview, there's some validity to that, okay? There's also some validity to Saquon saying, hey, look, we were predictable last year, and it didn't matter. You might be right, but your offensive line is beat to hell. They're not playing at the level that they need to, so you don't have – and the opponent, let's not forget the opponent. We're forgetting the fact that 30 other teams watched the Kansas City Chiefs shut down Saquon Barkley in the Super Bowl. 25 carries for 50-something yards, okay? That's the blueprint. That's the blueprint. So teams aren't playing Saquon in this offense the way they played him last year. They've adjusted to that. That's why I talked about it at the beginning of the season. I said it time and time again. We talk about the identity. The identity last year moved from Jalen throwing the ball 30 times a game to Jalen throwing 20 times a game and handing the ball to Saquon because it worked. The team's identity might not be the same. It possibly can't be the same this year because other teams have adjusted. And their identity may shift from week to week. There's going to be games where Jalen's going to have to come out throwing the ball, and then they get to the run game. And there's going to be games like this week, the Minnesota Vikings defense is giving up 132 yards per game. I look for the Eagles to come out and put the ball in Saquon's hand and then run play action pass off of that. So from week to week, their identity may have to change this year because guess what? The other guys get paid too. That's my thoughts. Next question. Raymond wants to know, if I were coaching this team, what would be my game plan going forward? Listen, I believe in accountability. And I can't say that Nick Sirianni is not holding these guys accountable because I'm not in the building. I don't know for sure. What I do know is that coaches throw themselves under the bus, at the mercy of the players. I never grew up in that world. If I played like crap, Buddy had no problem telling the whole world that 59 played like crap. I could handle it. I get it. We live in this world of emotional intelligence, and coaches just can't do that anymore. But at the same time, if I'm coaching a guy and I'm telling him 10 times during the week that this is what you should expect and this is what you should do, then should I step in front of the media and bite the bullet for that player because he's not doing his job and he's getting paid 10 times what I'm getting paid? Come on, man. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. So accountability would be first and foremost. Are you doing your job? Are you accountable to everybody else that's around you? Are you giving top effort when you're on the field? Because even when I used to coach my little kids, when my son played, my number one thing to them about effort was, listen, are you here because your parents want you to play? Or are you here because you like football or you love football and you want to play football? Oh, coach, we love the game. Well, if you love the game, okay, the one thing I should never have to preach to you about is effort. Because I don't care how good you are, how bad you are, how big, how strong, how fast, how slow, how dumpy, how in shape you are, okay? The one thing that we all have to give is effort. So that should never be a conversation piece. But when I watch this Eagles team play sometimes, I don't see the all-out effort. And I'm not talking about some peewee kids, that I'm coaching and trying to bring them along and change their mindset. I'm talking about professionals in the National Football League that are not giving 100% effort. If you're blocking a guy, 1,001, 1,002, and you let him go, did you hear the whistle? If you didn't hear the whistle, keep blocking. Because the play ain't over until the whistle blows. You blocked the guy for 2 seconds and let him go, then he went and sacked the damn quarterback. That's top effort? But you're going to go to that window on Tuesday and pick up that big-ass check, ain't you? That's what I do. That was the kind of conversation I'd have, okay? And they don't want to hear that. Because everybody believes, if Seth was coaching, the players would be shaking. Show me a great player that wants to be great, that don't want to be coached hard. And I'll show you a player that doesn't want to be great. Period. Next question. Seth, I saw a podcast that said the best quarterback for the Eagles isn't starting. How do you feel about Tanner McKee? Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is the franchise quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. The only way that Tanner McKee is getting on the field is if Jalen Hurts is hurt, period. Next question. Sirianni doesn't know how to be a creative coach. Maybe. I've been around coaches that are stubborn before too. It's his way or the highway. If it's not being executed, it's on the players. He'll certainly say, oh, I need to coach him better. The players will say, oh, I need to play better. We're going into week 7. You still talking about coaching better and playing better? Come on, man. You had OTAs all off season. You went through, 4 or 5 weeks of training camp. You're going into week 7, and we're still talking about playing better and coaching better? Give me a damn break. Next question. John wants to know, can anyone answer the $1 million question? Why did the Eagles trade for Bigsby? I want to know why he's still on the damn roster after that. I think they traded for him because they thought that he could be an asset in the special teams game. And I'm going to say this. I was saying it during last week, watching the game. Why don't the Eagles find a punt returner / kickoff returner that strikes fear in the other teams? When teams kick off at a punt, the one thing that we can count on is that they ain't breaking it for a touchdown. And every blue moon, somebody will break a run and run the ball out to the 50 or something. The most special thing about our special teams is our field goal kicker and sometimes our punter. Why haven't we gone and found somebody that could step up and strike fear in people that make them try to angle punt it and punt it out of bounds? To me, that makes no sense. There's certainly guys out there that could get it done, but Tank Bigsby was brought in here to return punts. They didn't bring him in here to play running back. They already had A.J. Dillon and Will Shipley. And if he can't return kickoffs, that's the only thing you're asking him to do, well, maybe they need to free that roster spot up and pull somebody off the practice squad, that can be an asset somewhere else. Next question. The Village wants to know, do we need different running plays? Up the middle is trash lately. Listen, they run that zone play up the middle a lot last year, and they rely on it a lot now. The problem is they're not getting the play out of the interior offensive lineman for it to work. So you saw the 2 runs that Saquon broke early in the game last week. They were off tackle plays. They were zone plays off tackle. They were stretch plays off tackle. I don't understand if Cam Jurgens, I always get the 2 mixed up. If Cam Jurgens isn't 100%, then don't put him in a situation especially when you're playing against a 5-man front, a true 30 front, where you got a nose guard. Like against the Denver Broncos, DJ Jones just destroyed Cam Jurgens all day long. And it created a situation where we couldn't run the football at all. So my thing is, okay, if you can't block him, cut him, and let's run the ball outside. Let's run the ball off tackle. But to continue to bang your head against the wall running the same damn plays that don't work is the true definition of insanity. Because after 6 weeks, if Cam hasn't been able to get those blocks up front, it's highly likely that he's not going to be able to get them. So let's get on the edge and rely on Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata in the run game. If we can't run the ball, then let's run some little quick tosses outside, some quick passes outside, the extension of the run game, like the modern day offensive gurus like to say, where Saquon can get the ball right now out in space, one-on-one. I like that matchup better than I like damn near any other matchup that you can think of. And it's there. The problem is, every single time that they run the ball, the progression is over here for A.J. Brown and somebody else. When you got Saquon right now, listen, what do the good teams do? When you look at the good offenses, okay, they're trying to succeed on first down. But if they don't succeed on first down, they're looking and they're trying to figure out, how can I get 5 to 6 yards on second down so I got third down and manageable? The Eagles will throw the ball on first down, incomplete, and then come back and run it on second down. Now you got third and long. If they do that crap this week, guess what? Brian Flores is going to light their ass up like the 4th of July with multiple blitzes. He's another guy like a Todd Bowles that's going to come after Jalen if they don't win on first down and they get behind the sticks on second and third down. Next question. Lauren wants to know, a lot of players talk up the culture. Nick is creative. But what does that mean? You know, that's such a great question, Lauren. You know what? Because I'm not one of those people, okay, that believes in this whole culture thing. I believe that when you win, you've created a great culture, a winning culture. Most of the time when you talk about bad cultures, it's because you don't win, because you ain't no damn good. So there's always some chatter going on in the media, always some chatter going on in the locker room. So there's always some discontent surrounding your team. But when you win, that's the culture. You have the culture of winning. Ain't nobody complaining when you're winning. Ain't nobody bitching when you're winning. Ain't nobody stirring anything up when you're winning, because quite naturally, the leaders on the team are gonna be like, shut the hell up, man. We winning right now. What are you talking about? So I'm not sure, because every head coach wants to create a great culture around their team. Whether that's communication, whether that's, trying to keep your players around each other so they, get to know each other and begin to play for each other, and you create this brotherhood. What coach doesn't want to create that? But I believe that culture is set more by wins and losses than anything else. That's just my opinion. Great question, Lauren. All right, y'all, that's the show for tonight. I got to run. Let's hope that our Birds can go to Minnesota and flip the script on this thing. At any point in time, it could happen. We saw it through 4 games last week into the bye week, and then week 6, this team took off and won the next 15 to 16 games. Doesn't mean it can't be done again. Still believe in this team. They got a lot of work to do, but they can get it done. All right? That's the show for tonight. As usual, you guys be good to each other and take care of each other. But most importantly, make sure you love each other. I'll see you guys right back here next week for another podcast. Take it.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
At MidPenn Bank, we believe in the power of community. We're not just another bank, we're your bank. We're also your neighbor. For over 150 years, we've been helping dreams come true, financing projects that make a difference locally. From small businesses to community centers, we're here to support what matters most to you, donating time and resources to strengthen the Philadelphia region. And when Philly's favorite superstars need a bank they can trust, they turn to MidPenn Bank just like you can. MidPenn Bank. Stronger communities, stronger futures. Let's build something great together.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges, from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.